have, if there's something you're dying to ask Kate. So we're going to start right at the very beginning, Kate. I just want to know a little bit about how you got into acting, like when you first got the bug, because I know you were very young when you sort of fell in love with it.
Yeah, so I was 10 and we'd moved about Scotland a little bit. My dad, well, he was a gardener, but for some reason we moved a lot. And we got to Ayr when I was about 9, and I was in primary 4 or 5, and a letter came round from this drama club saying we're going to start these Saturday morning drama classes at Craigie College in Ayr. And if you want to come, write a letter why. So I wrote my letter and I got in, and honestly I went home after maybe the first or second class and said, I'm going to be an actress, and that was it. I wouldn't.
Amazing.
And I watch my daughter now, who's 17 and about to leave school, and she's really struggling. She doesn't know what she wants to do, and she doesn't know what she wants to choose. And I feel really lucky now. I was quite blinkered,
right.
and even though I didn't even know if it would be attainable or not, I didn't sort of move from that, you know.
Wow.
I didn't get encouragement at school, but I got encouragement at home. So
right from the start, you weren't just into it because it was a bug and you enjoyed it. You actually thought right from the start, this is something I could do. I want to be an actor.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I can actually not have to be me, and I can step into someone else and like be a completely different person, and that for me was like amazing.
Yeah.
So.
And how about coming from a working class background?
Yeah.
Did it not feel unattainable? Because even now people talk about the industry being quite elitist, and you know it was worse back then.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and it is elitist because you know, and actually I think it's even worse now because there was grants, and you know we got grants at college, and you know we got you know we weren't getting crippled with student debt. But there was something about, so it was a strange thing to want to do, but my dad was very much like, you go for what you want. He had that working class mentality of you work hard, you'll get what you want, you know. And then also, as I grew up, there was things like, you know, Ken Loach films and you know, like Mike Leigh, and there was quite a lot of like kitchen sink dramas, as we called them then. Ladybird. There was things going on that, you know, you could see that there were stories being told. But as a teenager, I only watched like Hollywood. Like I was into Rocky, and I was into, you know, all the Hollywood blockbusters and all the Hollywood hot actors. And, you know, it wasn't like I watched those kitchen sink dramas. And I didn't think about film either. It was theatre. I didn't think I would do film.
Right.
I didn't have that in my head at all until I did Red Road. It wasn't like something I was hoping to achieve, you know. I did a bit of telly, and I did a series called Tinseltown, which was a clubbing drama that we made in the 90s about this group of pals who went to this Glasgow nightclub. It was wild. And we were wild at the time. So I'd done a bit of telly and I'd done a short film, but I wasn't aiming for film. I was kind of involved in theatre a lot, so.
And did you write from the start, the whole side of being an actor where people are looking at you, like even at events like today, you're here, focus of attention, did that come easy, or at the start were you a bit like, because I know you were raised like your dad didn't believe in sort of vanity, looking in the mirror, sort of seeking attention, that kind of thing?
No, I'm honestly a bag of contradictions. I don't like attention actually, but if I'm in a work situation like this, I'm fine. But if you met, I was just saying, if you met me in a pub, I'm the most socially awkward, shy, weird person ever, and you'd think, you just think I'm strange because I just don't know how to behave. But in work, then I've just got this kind of work thing I can do. So I don't like attention. Kate doesn't like attention. And actually, acting isn't really about, well, the acting I do anyway, you know, it's all about character and giving people voices and becoming other people and telling their stories. So I don't really do the type of acting that's, I don't know if there's any acting that you're really looking for attention, actually. In fact, most actors are a bundle of insecurities, and we're running from ourselves, or we're hiding from ourselves, or we're so uncomfortable we're better being other people, or we just like acting. I mean, not everyone's, you know, doing it because they're insecure, but there's certainly not the confidence in actors that you'd maybe assume there is, you know.
No, it's interesting because like Laurence Olivier, when he was asked, why do you want to be an actor? He said, look at me, look at me, look at me. So, yeah, apparently. So there must be that side as well.
And I'm like, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me.
Yeah, disappear into those roles.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there will be, but my thing was always wanting to tell people's stories and tell them and disappear into them, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe you get used to being in other people's sort of shoes, and then it means you're quite awkward as yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm probably other people more than I am myself sometimes, you know.
Yeah. So how about, I mean, you mentioned Tinseltown earlier, and you started off, you did quite a lot of theatre, you did TV before Red Road. Do you think, because we've probably got a couple of young actors in the audience today, do you think that is an essential kind of path to go on, that is the best way to cut your teeth, learn your craft?
No, I don't think there's any best way, actually. That was the way I did. And back, you know, when I trained, I went to the academy in 1990, so it was 30 years ago. And you kind of did that. You learnt your craft, and it's great. You learn a lot of skills. But I don't necessarily think it has to be the way you go. I think if you've got a natural talent and you're in the right place at the right time and you get a job, I mean, you know, like Andrea Arnold works for non-actors, you know, she doesn't look for actors actually, she looks for raw people that have no acting experience at all. You know, Ken Loach works with a lot of non-actors, and I think it's about, I think if you've just got a talent to be able to play people or step into other people's shoes, if you're full of empathy and you can lose yourself, I don't think you necessarily need the training. There's great skills, but for film, great skills for theatre, you know, how to use your breath and use your voice and reach the back row without shouting, how to wrangle speeches and work in a live thing. And in film you've got a lot of skills as well, but I don't necessarily know if you, I don't know, because we never got any film work when I went to drama school, and I don't know if it's different now at drama schools. I don't know if they teach more film acting and film work, but we got like 2 days where we all crowded round, like 30 of us around a camera, and we actually spliced it was back in the editing days when you were cutting the, I don't know what that tape is, but you know, manually cutting it, so we all got a chance to do that, so it was just very rudimentary then, so I'm not really probably the best person to ask actually.
And do you find them very different disciplines, like theatre, TV, film? They
are very different disciplines. I mean, I've said this a lot when I've talked about Red Road, but honestly, most of Andrea's direction to me was less. No, just be, because I was like so used to theatre acting, and she just had to like bring it all down. It wasn't a matter of kind of stamping it out, but it was just, I had no idea that I didn't have to act, you know, because you kind of, in theatre, although it's truthful, you do have people maybe in a back row to reach. You do have a thing to sort of put forward. And in film, literally, I could look at you and someone could, you know, if I have the right thought in my head, someone will know something's going on at least. And that, to me, it was hard, though, to wrangle myself. And now I love it. I love that you don't have to show and tell. Because we don't show and tell in real life. We pretend we're fine all the time. How are you? I'm fine. And your life's totally gone to shit. Everything's fallen apart, you know, but you have this thing as a human being to try and present your best face, you know, you've got pride and you don't want people to know. So you don't show and tell as a person, and I love that. And I mean, you do it in theatre as well, but in film you literally can, you know, have a face that doesn't move, but so much going on in your eyes, or a twitch, or just, as long as you're thinking the truthful thoughts, it will read as something. You're not going to look blank, and I just find that fascinating to explore, and I'm still making horrible mistakes with it. And you know, I've learnt film on film, so there's a lot of clunky acting and clunky decisions, but you know, you live and learn. And
Do you ever go back to your old films? Do you ever,
Never.
when they're on telly,
No.
catch 5 minutes and think,
No.
oh,
And I don't watch my stuff, so I'm trying to get better. I would never go back and watch old things, and I should maybe try and do that. I struggle to watch the finished product. And I would like to be better at that. I don't want to sit and go, hey, I want to watch my films, but I would like to be able to go, okay, what is it I don't think worked, or what is it that, you know, like be quite a critique.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh my God, no, I've ruined it. Oh, everyone was fine till I turned up. Oh, I've, you know, so, and I think a lot of actors have that. It's horrible watching yourself. So, but it would be good to be better, because then you could get better quickly.
I mean, you've mentioned Red Road a couple of times, and for a lot of people, that was a moment we really got to see you and think, wow, who's this, you know? So how did that role come about? How did you get cast by Andrea Arnold? Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, I think she'd been looking for Jackie for about a year. So I was one of the very last people to get seen for it before she was going to have to make a decision, I think. And it was kind of, I mean, I guess she'd looked at a lot of people, because I wasn't really in the realm for film work. And I don't know how my name got put forward into the mix, but I went down for an audition. And all I had to do was but I had to stand in the street in Soho and walk along the street, and then realise that my purse was missing from my bag. And then I was just to stand in the corner. So I did that, and I got a recall. And then at the recall, she mixed us in. So like Tony Curran was there, and there was a couple of other male actors. There was me, there were a couple other female actors, and she just put us together with different males. I did a few scenes with all the men, and then Tony and I got put together. So it was a matter of just working out who worked well together and who she was looking for and what kind of feel. So I feel very lucky, because it wasn't something I was chasing or aware of, you know. And I didn't know. I didn't know that kind of part was like really unusual for a woman to be a lead of a movie, for you not to be supporting the man and his story, for it to be all the things that Red Road was. I was quite green, and I just thought that was a normal thing to do, to play these roles. And because in theatre, I feel it's a bit more. See, I feel I'm going to say these things that people are like, no, it's not, it's completely sexist and that. But the kind of stuff I did, which was physical theatre, and quite, again, my theatre was like a version of my film. It was quite dark and physical, and I didn't do a lot of fluffy stuff. So maybe I just came from a different angle. But I wasn't aware of the disparity between the male and female actors, the roles, the money, the opportunities, the glass ceiling. So Red Road for me, it was just, I was so naive, and it was a great I was so blank canvas, and I just don't have enough good things to say about Andrea. She's absolutely amazing, a beautiful person as well as a brilliant director, and she just nurtured me, and we stayed good friends, so we keep in contact. I saw her recently, and she's amazing. I'm really pleased to see the film she's made since Red Road, and other people really appreciate her as much as me. I don't know if you've seen Cow.
Oh, don't even go there.
And then at the end of it, I went to a socially distanced screening in Bristol. I was down there filming, and honestly, at the end, you know, the few of us there, the back row, everyone else seemed normal, and I was like, why am I broken? She's just the cinematography by her cinematographer was amazing, because you got to a point banging in the cow all the time, and being at that level where the human, you were with her, you know, the cow, the humans became, it was so brilliant, and her films just, they just break me.
She's remarkable.
She's amazing.
So to go back...
That was a long, see what I say about talking, that was a long answer about do you need to train at drama college for...
No, we got plenty of time, it's fine. But talking about Jackie, I mean, she's the first of many women you've played on screen who live kind of troubled lives or pained lives. It seems to be the work that you gravitate towards. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, it is fair to say, and I wasn't quite. I'm getting more aware of it as I get older. Okay, I see there's a theme here with me, but I knew when I knew what I was interested in even as a young woman, and my interest is telling the difficult stories, the stories that people don't want to tell, playing the characters that are troubled and in pain and that aren't pretty, and giving. I've just got this thing that everyone's got the right to be in a cinema or be at home or wherever you watch a movie, and at least once in your life go, that's my, not maybe not my life, but that's my experience, and it's getting told, you know. I just think it's really important, and I'm not really interested in the fluff. I like watching it, and it's, you know, a nice distraction for me, but I feel it's quite vital to tell stories that are difficult, and hopefully help people feel less alone, or less of a freak, or less of a, you know, I just, it's just a thing I have.
Yeah.
So that's why I end up playing characters the way I do, and it's not like, oh, it's all I get cast in, it's my interest, and it's not my only interest. I do like telling nice stories, but I'm not frightened of telling them. I don't have vanity about how I look. I don't care if I'm wearing makeup. I don't care what you make me look like.
Yeah.
So I want to get as deep as I can. I think it's your job as an actor, you know.
There's a lot of talk at the moment about who has the right to tell certain stories. Do you think the fact that, you know, you've obviously working class background, you were very nomadic when you were young, you've been through a lot of pain, I don't want to get too personal, but losing your parents, stuff like that. Do you think all of that is kind of important to go into the mix of playing roles like this? Because, like, would you say an 18-year-old who comes out of drama college and she's lived in Chelsea all her life and has mummy and daddy's money would have a right to play these sort of people?
Oh, that's a difficult one, because I feel strongly about, you know, you definitely have to, you know, we have to be past, we need to get past the whitewashing and the racism and the, you know, we need to make sure the right people are casting roles, trans actors, you know, disabled actors. I feel strongly about that. I mean, I just can't, I'm trying to imagine Chelsea from London at 18 with lots of money even being interested in a part like that. But if she was a good enough actor, she could. I don't think you need to have the background of the pain or the experience to be able to act these parts. So I think I would be okay with Chelsea from London at 18, as long as she did her research well and she took it seriously and she gave herself up. I think what you have to have as an actor is a lot of empathy, like masses of it, because you need to understand situations that people get themselves into or put themselves into or find themselves into that maybe don't make any sense at all to people, you know, and you need to find, like, I had for, say, Liza in Game of Thrones, for example. When you look at Liza on screen, she's so disturbed. She's breastfeeding her 12-year-old son. She's killing people, and, you know, but actually, if you're not careful, she could have become like a pantomime villain, you know. And there was a very fine line to walk with Liza, because she was very, very mentally, she was very disturbed. She had mental health problems, obviously. And so I had to give them gravity and respect. But I also had to play this character who was doing really wild and inexplicable things and being horrible. She was horrible. However, when you go back to, so I went back to the books, and when I read Liza's background, oh my God, she'd had a terrible time. She, you know, she'd been in love with Littlefinger since she was a teenager. She got pregnant by him. Her parents, or her father, made her have an abortion, and then he married her off to John Aaron, who was an old man. There was no love. Then she had multiple stillbirths, miscarriages. She couldn't have a child. She was in a loveless marriage. She was in love with Littlefinger, who loved Kat, her sister. and he was playing her, and then she had this baby, Robin, or Robert he's called in the books, Sweet Robin, and so she couldn't. That's when I was like, okay, now I get the breastfeeding. She couldn't have a child. She was never able to have a baby. She finally manages to have this one baby, and she can't stop babying him. And actually, the breastfeeding and the way she mothers is much more about what she needs from it rather than what the baby and her son needs. So once I'd got the hook of that, it was actually okay to then play these big things, because I had the truth of her and her pain in my head, and I could understand that she was behaving in ways through insecurity, through misery, through genuinely being, you know, having mental health problems. So as long as you look at people's background, you know, as long as you do, I mean, everyone's got a different approach. Some actors just go in and they're in the present and they're in the moment. I love that and I admire it, but I kind of get a bit mired in research and stuff, which also can sometimes bog you down. So it's a fine balance.
Is your process always the same, or do you vary role to role?
It's a kind of similar thing each time, but it varies. I mean, if I'm doing quite a small role, say in a TV thing that's quite light, I'll do my research, but if I'm doing a role that's heavy, with, you know, a lot of background and a lot of baggage, I should say, then I seem to need to get into some sort of state for that, and that for me is making playlists with music.
Okay, yeah.
And also, I use a lot of, I'm on Instagram a lot. I love street photography. I'm always looking for faces, and it's not that I'm going to go, oh, there's she, I want to be her, but there's looks in people's faces. I sit in the park like a real creep, watching people all the time, because people's physicality is so interesting. If you sit in a park and watch how people scurry along, how they carry themselves through the park, how, you know, whether they're, you know, confident. It's so fascinating. Some people have got, and I'm quite, I've got one side of me much higher than the other, and I only notice it in photos after standing like that. But I don't know what I do with my body. I don't know how I look scurrying along the park, probably quite odd. But I'm really interested with the way people carry themselves, either to hide something or it shows something about them. So I like looking at people a lot. I like paintings. I like looking at paintings. Like Paula Riga. Oh God, my names are terrible. She's got this dog series of women like on their all fours, like really animalistic. And I've used them a few times for different characters, just for that feeling. I used them definitely for Couple in a Hole, which was a film I made about a couple living in a hole in the ground in France. And she was absolutely just probably the most kind of stuck character I've played.
Right.
But she was quite animalistic. She didn't act animalistic, but she lived kind of animalistically. And a job I've just done there called Worm Eater, a horror, we used those dog pictures as reference again. So paintings and music and photos are really helpful for me. And then my playlists will be into subgroups. So I'll have a playlist, excuse me, which is music that just gets me into right moods that I'll maybe want to listen to when I'm in my trailer getting ready, or maybe if there's a lot of noise on set, I tend to just put my headphones on, and that means that you're not, as I chat so much, as you can see, when you're playing a character, then it means I don't get distracted, because I want to chat and hang out with the makeup artist and talk about what they were doing the night before, or you know, I just get too involved. So I'll take myself away with headphones, and that's actually how the playlist started. Was me being too chatty and just not being able to focus myself for dark stuff. So I started putting on my headphones, and it became quite a good indicator, because it's a shame for crew. Sometimes if your crew don't know if they can approach an actor or if they can't, you know, they don't know your system. So if I've got my big Sennheisers on, I'll just say, you know, if I've got these on, that I'm in the mode, and you know, I'll take myself off, so I'm not. So the music will then be, there'll either be playlists that I'll listen to music that gets me in the mood, and then I have playlists for the character, and it's sort of music that only the character listens to, and that's fun. Because some of my characters have had terrible taste in music, really bad, and so that, and then I try and only listen to their playlists while I'm working.
Right, that's amazing.
So just stuff like that. I mean, it's not necessary. Not, you know, a lot of actors don't need or do any of that. But for me, it's more about trying to steep myself into a kind of world then that I can access quite quickly, because the thing I've struggled with the most as a theatre actor getting into film is the filming things out of sequence. Like Red Road, my very first movie, we filmed the very last scene, was the first scene that we filmed of that movie. And Andrea, you know, I think I was almost skipping along that road with the dog, and I was like greeting people. And Andrea's like, no, it needs to be really, you know, you're depleted and that. And then after we'd made the film, like the rest of it, I went and I was like, I can't believe I would never have been as cheery in the last scene, you know, but it was fine. We'd done some takes. So that's really... It's hard because once you've filmed some of that sequence, that's there now, and then you have to. It's a tricky one, and it takes a lot of skill, and that's the skill that I've struggled with the most. I think I've not been able to start at the beginning of a story and be so absorbed, and then get to the end. Hard. You know. Yeah.
Do you find you're only offered a certain kind of role based on these kind of women you've played? Because I can remember I was on set of The Girl with All the Gifts, and I interviewed Glenn Close, and I was like, I can't believe here you are, Glenn Close, in the Midlands, in a zombie movie, a British zombie movie. And she said, it's because no one ever offers me these roles. I really like zombie movies. And she was so delighted she'd been offered it, because she only gets those big sort of grand dame characters.
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, I'm doing a lot of horror. I mean, people say things like, I've got a period face, or I've got a medieval face, or I don't suit modern things, I look like a man. Oh my God, you've no idea the abuse I've had online about how I'm a man and not a woman, and it's really bizarre. I don't care what you think. In fact, one time I got tagged by this guy, and he said the scariest thing about The Witch was finding out Kate Dickie isn't a man, right? And I was just on Twitter, and I just thought, I won't say what I thought. I think we're streaming, so. But anyway, I knew it was International Women's Day a week later, and I'm a maniac. So I kept his handle, I kept the tweet, I waited a week. International Women's Day, I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, right, on Twitter. And all I wanted to say was, Happy International Women's Day. You may be surprised, I am celebrating this. And then I just said, hope you lose the misogyny, sending you much love and light in your life. I killed it with kindness. He was mortified. He didn't even realise if he tagged me I would see it or something like that. I don't know what happened. But what was the story? Oh yeah, how I got... so I've got a face that tends to get cast in like horror and stuff like that, and I'm fine with that because I like those characters. At the beginning of my sort of TV and film career, I played so many sex workers, honestly. That was all I played. And I've no issue with playing them, but I got to a point, I must have done 7 or something, and I just said to me, I don't have another one in me. You know, how do I get out of this sort of thing? But then film happened and stuff, so you do get typecast, I guess, and that's understandable at times, and at other times it's frustrating. Like, I know now that people say, oh, I get a bit nervous when Kate Dickie turns up in some, because I'm worrying about now about what's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen when I turn up. So I'm like, oh God. But I don't know. So I think it's a bit of both, really. It's a bit of what people are interested in, for also the stories that I want to choose as well. But I do like playing. I've played some detectives recently, and and I do like. It's nice to play light stuff. I'm not like the only stuff I can do is, you know, I just have maybe more of a connection with that. I don't know.
So would you advise like producers, casting agents that they should chuck these curveballs at you and not just think like, oh, Kate won't do that?
Oh, and not just at me. I mean, honestly, I mean, yeah, and another thing is sometimes the descriptions of characters can be soul destroying, you know.
Right.
And that I wish could change. You know, I used to get scripts like, she looks like life has bitten her hard, you know. She's, you know, clapped out old slapper, honestly, was one of the descriptions. And they even talked about my character as a clapped out old slapper. And I was 32 or something at the time. And anyway, so there's things like that. I just think... I wish there wasn't so much hang up about physicality, and I mean across the board, and how people look, you know, size, shape, colour, you know, looks, whatever, height. I mean, I'm saying that sounds glib, and I don't mean glibly about colour. That's a real issue, the whitewashing and that, and I feel strongly about that. I don't mean to be glib and say that, but I just mean there's a very narrow... there can be a very narrow sort of mind frame sometimes of what people want to see in screen, and what we want to see in screen is a variety of people that reflect our society.
Of course.
You know, I don't want to just see white people playing, you know, Scottish stories, and, you know, that's, I mean, you know, Scottish stories I love, but I don't want to just see people that look like me in screen telling stories that I'm familiar with. I want to learn about the world. I want to be challenged. I want to be educated. I want to, you know, find out about things I don't know about. And I just think, you know, we need to keep pushing that as a society as well as our industry, to make sure that we're telling them. I guess it goes back to me saying everyone deserves to sit at home and at least see or something similar to your story or your life or your experience up on screen, and that's, you know, above a lot of, across the board, worldwide. We should be seeing that, you know, and not just a chosen few stories, you know, palpable ones that they think will get bums and seats and make loads of money. So, but that's just my, you know, sort of personal opinion.
That's great. Just to do a complete 180 of that, I want to talk about the fame side of the industry. In terms of like Red Road, you suddenly found yourself winning lots of awards, and you're on the red carpet in Cannes and all of that kind of thing. How did you find that, and how would you advise anyone in the industry, any young actors coming up, if they start to get a bit of acclaim and a bit of fame, how do you cope with that and not let it derail you, make your head spin?
So I think it's a bit different for me because I don't really have to deal with fame as such. You know, I'm not like getting like, you know, like, you know, people, I get stopped in the street and said hi and that, but it's not like I'm getting, you know, constantly. You know, I look at some of my friends who really are famous, and it looks a hard thing to deal with. I think, I mean, for me, Cannes was... So I had no idea Cannes was as big as it was, and obviously I'd heard of Cannes, but I didn't realise the scale of it. So when Red Road got into competition, Andrea phoned me up and said, Red Road's in competition at Cannes, and I was like, is that good? I didn't even know that was good. So we went, and like Kenny and his mum and dad were like, should we come? And I was like, no, it's like a film festival, no. Oh my God, I got there and it was so overwhelming. I mean, it was, I had no idea that world existed. And I did 3 days of press from 10 to 6 every day, no media training. I mean, like 10 minutes, you were like, here's America, here's China, here's Russia, here's all these countries, and everyone was asking me what it was like to have real sex for a film, because people thought that the sex scene was real. And 9 songs, I was talking about this to Mark Kermode actually when I was on his show just a couple of months ago, 9 songs was there. I think it was a Michael Winterbottom film. I've not seen it, but seemingly they had real sex in it. And this was my first movie at my first festival, and it was so full on. And I was like, oh my God, people think I've had sex for a film. So I had to deal with just all that on my own. So that was a baptism of fire, and that's maybe why I am okay with interviews and with things, because I was thrown in right at the deep end. And then I took fright at Cannes, and I said I wouldn't go to the premiere. I just had a panic attack. And Andrea and her partner came round to my hotel room. The makeup and hair had come to the hotel room, and I'd done my hair myself because I didn't understand that people did these things for you. Yeah. And anyway, and that flustered me. I felt really embarrassed because this team turned up to do my hair and makeup, and I would like, I said, I've done it. And they were like, well, what are we to do? And I was like, I don't know. Yeah. So I was so stressed out, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to come. You go to the premiere and just tell me how it was. And they were like, no, you have to come. It ended up, honestly, I had my hands round the door charm and in my dress, crying, like weeping, like that. And they had to prise every finger off that door jam. And then I got there and it was brilliant because it was just really exciting. But that getting there, I had the biggest, I just took fright. And I'd not seen the film yet, and it was 2,500 people we were going to watch it with, and I hadn't seen it. So that was interesting. So me and Tony ended up honestly sitting like on our chairs like this. By the time we got to the sex scene, I was dying. I just had never watched anything like that with an audience. So it was quite a baptism of fire. I think now it's very different. You know, there's media training, and I think that's really important because when you're dealing with the media, it's like getting into honestly, it's getting like, well, not all media, obviously. But if you're dealing with tabloids, even for a film interview, it's like getting into a boxing ring with a boxer, and you have to see what's coming from where, because they come in with an angle and they'll want to get you down that angle, whatever the angle is.
Exactly.
And you have to be constantly like, honestly, so you know, like just to protect a bit of yourself. Yeah. So I am all for. I think young actors definitely need that and a bit of support. I would just say, you know, just to make sure you don't get caught up in a hype, you know, and get caught up in that rather than your job. And just make sure, you know, because it is a big deal, and it would be very overwhelming as a young person to get fame.
Must be.
And lose your privacy and really understand what losing your privacy is, and it's maybe not as fun as it looks or cool or, you know, and just keep focusing your work. And if you keep focusing your work and understand that you're famous because of what you're doing, and it's not because you're just I mean, you might be amazing, but you know, you don't get too caught up. I guess that would help keep you grounded, you know.
I'm going to ask you a last couple of questions because our time has gone like that. It's unbelievable.
So much.
No, it's unbelievable.
You've probably wanted to talk about loads of other things, and I've waffled on about nonsense.
You've talked brilliantly. I'm going to ask just a couple of...
I'll be quick.
Okay,
I'll be quick, I
couple
promise.
of quickies because I want to give the audience a chance. But I just want to mention, you've obviously been in some really big films as well. You've been in like The Last Jedi, Prometheus, these huge productions. Yeah. How have you found that experience?
Oh gosh, see, I'm a wee bundle of nerves, so I think I would maybe be better now. But in Prometheus, when I did Prometheus, I was absolutely terrified on it. I just felt overwhelmed. But Ridley Scott is a beautiful, beautiful man who kind of took me under his wing and kind of introduced me to the cast and said, watch Red Road, and he was lovely, and Michael Fassbender and Numi and Idris and Shaw, they were a lovely cast, so I think they could probably see that I was just like, and they just were lovely, and the sets were amazing, the costumes, I mean, the thing is, when you're working on big things like that, there's a big budgets, so then you end up, you know, you're wearing pieces of art as your costume, Green, I don't know if you've seen The Green Knight.
Oh, wonderful.
Stunning, stunning, stunning film. And my costume had these, I'm not sure the right name, milligrees, or they're called, they're things, oh that's so bad, wee things, but they're these wee things that were hand sewn. I mean, there was hundreds in that dress, hand sewn on, you know, like even the witch were like low budget, the costume detail and that, like Ralph, who plays William in it, my husband, was wearing socks that are made from the same breed of wool, of same breed of sheep's wool that it would have been in 1630. Do you know what I mean? So there's, when you end up watching films that you don't go, you go, that was brilliant. I'm not kind of sure why. It tends to be for me that the detail is so incredible that you're in this world without, you know, knowing that the socks are made from the same sheep's breed of wool, or, you know, you don't know that, but that is how much detail. The Last Jedi, I'll just be quick, that was a couple of days of just like, oh, am I on this set with these people? That set was huge, and people again were lovely, but what I've realised, or what I tell myself, is what's important is you just try not get caught up about what, if something's big and you're used to doing wee stuff like me, and what Prometheus did in a way is I just thought, it's so big, but actually your job is the same. You're there to play your character, do your job as best you can, because that's what you're being paid for, and just keep focused on that, and the rest will, you know, and it just helps calm you, and keep you focused on what you should be focused on, really.
Yeah. And my final question is the exact opposite of that, that I know that you've continued even now, that you support local filmmakers, you often pop up in short films, obviously patron of Solar Bear, the theatre company does work with deaf people, that kind of thing. So how important is that to you? That must be vital to you, and why do you choose to do that, to keep sort of pumping blood into the community, as it were?
I mean, I'm so thrilled when people want to make films and be part of the industry, and, you know, I know the absolute work, you know, and graft it takes, and, you know, it's a miracle to get a film made, even in the best of circumstances, with budgets and stuff. But there's so much untapped talent out there. There's so many amazing stories to be told. Just because you're not known by people doesn't mean that you're not good, you know? And I just think, if you've not got, I mean, I can only do a little. I'm not, you know, really well known. I don't have a lot of clout. But if I can do a short film with someone and it help, you know, it gets a little bit of funding, or it just brings a bit of experience, or whatever the reason, I just think it's really important to put back. And, like, these filmmakers are going to be our future filmmakers, and, like, if you're not encouraging and welcoming and just trying to help, then how do people, like, sometimes people are just going to be at a door forever trying to, it's really hard. It is hard as a filmmaker, and I really feel you know, I really feel strongly that, and it's not like, oh, I'm off to do this favour. It's not like that. I just think, you know, if it's a script, and I won't do, you know, everything, but if a script I really like, and it's somebody, the director or the writer or whoever's approached you, they just have something, I just think, well, why not?
Why not?
You know, why not?
No, that's brilliant. Right, guys, I'm sure some of you...
I don't know, you're probably,
Here
God,
we
what's she
go.
going to talk about?
we have a microphone coming. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kate, and Jamie as well. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Would you call it? My question is, I really liked what you were saying about how you get into the zone with listening to the music. Now, just to make this clear, I'm not an actor or anything like that, but recently I've got back into doing animation, and I've been doing something very similar. But what struck me is when I'm getting kind of putting life into these little models, afterwards, depending on what the emotion is, I feel really drained, like really like hit by a bus.
Yeah.
So if you get any kind of techniques or whatever, how you kind of come out of character?
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because I've had the same issue a couple of times, especially after Couple in a Hole, the character I played who was living in the hole, who was very grief-stricken, and I went onto that film 2 days after The Witch, who'd been very... and I really struggled with the unpacking. I have this kind of visual thing where I pack her up, I pack my character up, and I put her away, you know, in my head. That it's like, because people, a lot of cats say, oh, you take one of your props, or you take, and I'm like, no, I don't. I leave them behind and I pack them away, I think, because my cats are quite tough. I don't really want to. But yeah, I have this kind of mental thing of almost like getting the box out in my head, saying cheerio, and I say cheerio to them as well, and sometimes they don't want to go, so I just have to let them stay with me a while. And I know that you're going to think this sounds really wanky and weird and actory, but actually when you've when you know, if you're making and creating a character and breathing life into them and carrying their pain and their experience, it's not something that you can just toss off, and you become attached to them. Like, I grieved Jackie and I grieved Karen, and I grieve a lot of my characters, so I go through a wee grief thing. And I think the easiest thing it's got is when I've actually acknowledged, oh, I have this thing where I struggle to leave characters, and instead of going, well, that's silly and you're just gonna have to do it, I have a wee process now. It's like a little goodbye sort of thing, you know, and you know. Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually told anyone that, and I actually don't think I've ever sort of articulated what I do, but I do. It's like a wee ceremony sort of thing in my head, obviously, you know. But I just have to give them time to say cheerio, and I'm going to miss things about them, and yeah, it's like a goodbye.
Thank you. That was a great question.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for that.
Gentleman at the back.
Hi there.
Hello.
I loved The Green Knight. It was amazing.
Oh, great.
It was really, really captivating, and I felt one of the ways kind of David Lowery made it so captivating was kind of the introductions of the king and queen at the beginning, and kind of that weird ethereal, like godlike status almost, the mythical stuff. So I guess I would be interested to know what that playlist was that got you to that level.
Oh God, for her, and it was hard actually, because when you're playing, like, so for her I had a lot of now I'm gonna have to look up names because I'm really bad with names. I use a lot of a composer called Arvo Pärt. He's an Estonian composer, and he's got a track. There's one called Cantus in Memoriam, Benjamin Britten, which I use a lot, and I use another one. It's Fratres. And it's Fratres for violin and piano, 1980. There's a lot of different Fratres. So I used quite a lot of that. And I also had some, I wonder if I've still got it on my phone. I don't mean to be cheeky, get my phone out, but a lot of the time I keep playlists. I'm just wondering, sometimes I say goodbye to them too, but sometimes I actually have old playlists on my phone. But I don't think she's going to be there. Yeah, it was classical music for her, though. I do remember that. A lot of Arvo Pärt. I'm trying to think who else I used. Max Richter. I used him for some of the quiet stuff, and I think the Max Richter one I liked was, and I can tell you this now, was On the Nature of Daylight and Dream number 8. Oh, and another one as well I use is the Michael Nyman Memorial from The Thief's Wife and His Love. That dum, 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 dum. That one, if you know what I'm talking about, that'll be fine. If you don't, you're going to be like, what?
It's intense.
Oh, it's so intense. It's brilliant. So she was a lot of classical stuff, and there might have been Oh So Quiet by Bjork in there as well for Near the Death Scene as well. So it's really eclectic, and I take a lot of time on them as well. And it's quite good because sometimes they can nudge you into a way of doing something. And that was interesting how we filmed that actually, because I obviously played when I get possessed, and then Ralph did his bit in the studio, and then I redid mine in the studio, and then they kind of mixed our voices together. Oh God, David Lowery was brilliant, and the cinematography in that film.
Just stunning. Yeah.
And that's actually, so I don't normally watch my films, and this is why I have to change, because my friend Sam was over from America, and she was like, have you seen The Green Knight? I was like, no, I'm in it, I can't. And she was like, okay. She literally made me sit down, and it was beautiful. Out in that.
If anyone's not seen it, I'm sure you have, but it's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, and I
it's
know,
just
I know.
one of the best films of last year.
It's so
Amazing.
lush and
Incredible.
dreamy, and Dev Patel is amazing. Oh, and he's so lovely. He's like the
he's a lovely
nicest guy
Yeah.
ever. Oh, that was a beautiful job. And working with Sean again, because Sean and I have worked together a few times, and he just takes the piss out of me all the time. So we had a real laugh. And Ralph, I mean, I just love working with Ralph. And we're like best friends now as well. Me and him and Anya, we've just stayed as tight as
I was going to
can
say,
be.
just to butt in again quickly, but you mentioned Ralph and Anya, because obviously you're in The Northman, which
Yes,
is coming out next
I
month,
know.
April the 15th, which is the new Robert Eggers film.
Robert
The
Eggers'
Witch,
new film,
So-
Vikings kind of...
Viking epic. So how does that work? Do you stay in touch with directors? Like when you worked on The Witch, I mean, Eggers is obviously such a talent. Do you then try and sort of keep a relationship?
Oh, I mean, that just came naturally. We were like a wee tight family out in Canada. You know, we filmed out there for a couple of months. There was just, a raggle-taggle wee family, 5.5 hours from civilization and an hour's drive from the wee town we were in. We even had to do like these, like, run to, I think, if it was going to be a bear or a wolf, because there was bears and wolves in the woods. I was dying to see a wolf, but I didn't. But anyway, we had this whole thing where if you see a wolf, you have to run and let off a rocket, and everyone's to run. Stuff that you would definitely not doing in Scotland on a film set. But we became really tight during that, so that was a natural thing. If it's a natural relationship, I keep in touch,
Like
but I
Andrea
don't
as well.
try
Andrea,
and pester, try and be
yeah.
directors' pals. But if it's a natural thing's grown out of it...
Do you ever reach out to people though, like Steve McQueen with small acts? Are there certain directors where you think, I love their work, I'd love to work with
Oh
them?
my God, no, I'm far
don't?
too...
No.
No, I'm far too shy. And that was... Oh, what a brilliant...
Yeah, it's incredible.
brilliant piece of TV, writing, direction, small acts. And he is amazing. That was a real dream come true, working with Steve McQueen. He is incredible, and just watching him work, watching him direct people. This is the thing, even if you get a small part in something, you get this chance to be on set with people at the top of their game, whether it's the director, whether it's the actors, whether it's the costume department, the makeup, the lighting, the cinematography, whatever. And you can just try and use those experiences to soak it up and try and be present, because I think in Prometheus I was so like that for the first month. I look back in that first month, I think, oh God, I wish I'd just been able to breathe, I did enjoy the next ones, but the first few weeks was just, I was just terrified of being sacked and then going, who are you and why are you on our set,
Yeah. So maybe one final question. I'm sorry I cut into your time now. I got excited, talk more than Kate. So go on, the guy at the back. Thank you.
Hey Kate.
Hello.
It's nice to meet you as well.
You too.
I found the talk to be incredibly endearing, and it's also because I was speaking to someone previously about you never think that actors do get nervous. You feel as though these are the pinnacle of, and it's also when the sets I've been on as either an AD or as a runner, I'm sometimes it can feel like, am I allowed to talk to this person?
Yeah, I know, and I think it's a shame actually, because a lot of that doesn't come from actors ourselves. I mean, if I'm on a set, I try and break down those kind of barriers. Don't talk to, not that I'm on set. I mean, the thing is, I guess I'm doing indies and stuff. You don't have time and money to be doing all that, but yeah, I think as an actor, you've got to try and help that as well. If I'm, this is why I wear big headphones on a set, because if it's okay to chat to you one day because you're sitting there, and then suddenly if I've got headphones on, if I've got buds on and you don't know that, and I'm suddenly like, don't, I'm getting into character or something. It's not a nice, I believe really firmly that you go in and you create a good atmosphere for everyone, and that we're all a team. And I don't like the hierarchy, and I know that sometimes we have to get our lunch first, say, if you've got a lot of makeup to get on and you're first up on set. But I'm not a keen thing of take me to the front of the queue and bring me the lunch, and because you couldn't make that film without one of those, anybody, you know that, anybody in that, you know, you're missing a runner on set one day and the thing falls to shit because every single job is so important to keep that cog turning, and if something gets out of kilter, which can happen a lot in sets, you know, it can really throw things. And I think it's just important to be real and to be approachable, because then you're going to make the best work. If you've not got people worrying about being frightened to approach you, or I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? But
just kind of want to, what you said about the roles earlier, just one final question is, I can ask this of all actors, what are you looking for? What role would challenge you and terrify you, but you'd want to do it?
oh God, that's really hard, because I don't even know if I know what is out there. Like, I don't know. I mean, what would challenge me the most was if someone cast me in somewhere I had to be sexy and flirt. To me, that would be the biggest challenge ever. Honestly,
Really?
I don't flirt. What do you mean flirt? Hi. I mean, I wouldn't have a clue. So for me, actually, that would be the most terrifying thing. And I will never be cast in a sexy role, so it's fine. But for me, that would be the biggest challenge, would be feeling like, oh, it's like polishing a turd, because now I have like, people want me to look like, you know, I'm going to have to look good, and oh my God, that would have me crying in my trailer, probably stressed out my nut.
Someone's going to watch this stream on the stream, and they're going to send you a script. Okay, Kate, come on.
They're not, and it's not. I mean, the thing is, I am open to any part, because at the end of the day, you know, it depends on the baggage and how you play them and that. But if you were just to be like, oh, be sexy, I'm like, I don't know what that is. What do I do? You know, I've been a tomboy all my life. I don't know what. I don't understand that language. Okay. So that for me, and yet you could tell me to, you know, be naked on all fours, you know, fancy, you know, I don't know, whatever. That sounds really weird, actually. Sorry. I was actually thinking of like, oh my God. Oh no, now I'm thinking of people streaming as well. This sounds really weird. I just mean, like, I have no issue. You could get me into like dirt and, you know, a terrible situation, and I'm quite comfortable playing that. But if I was to dress up in high heels and have to be sexy and flirty, for me, that would be the biggest challenge for me. So
cool. Everyone, thank you so much for attending today.
Thank you for listening to me yap on and on.
Please join me in thanking Kate Dickie. That was wonderful.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Right, I think we've
we've
gone over our time. So
I thought we'd been talking for about 20 minutes.
I
I'm
did.
sorry.
I thought
you
I'd just
probably had loads of stuff
no,
you
we
wanted
got
to
through most of it.